Well, welcome guys, for what might be a really big and interesting video. For this one, we've got Boots with us. How's it going, Boots?
Hello. I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. So, yesterday in the evening, there was some big news with Guild Wars. Boots was out, I was away. If you guys have been following my videos, they're really sporadic at the moment. I'm kind of between setups right now, and I've got a weird audio issue, so I'm not really doing live stuff at the moment. But yeah, there was this big update, so I thought we'd get together and we could read it through. Now, the special thing about this is, just to be clear, Boots, you've never read this, and I've never read this, right?
I will tell you that I did scan it. It was linked to me in Discord, and I went, okay.
No, you've ruined it. It's supposed to be
What do you
totally
mean?
blind. So hold on.
Was I supposed to lie?
All right, okay. So out of 100%, how knowledgeable are you of this post?
32%.
Oh, okay. All right. So you'll just guide us a little bit, I guess, as we go along.
Sure.
So this is obviously coming. Anyone super out of the loop off the back of the news a little bit ago that they're going to be doing yearly expansions. And then we had a very brief Living World patch, a little bit of a letdown, frankly. Did a good amount of coverage on that. And now everyone's just kind of been waiting to see what's going on. We're right at the end of spring. I mean, when is the start of summer? Mid-May, really, isn't it, to be honest?
June 21st.
Oh, really? Okay, all right, fine. So well in spring, and here's our roadmap update. And I guess let's just jump in and see what the devs have got. You said this is quite long as well, right?
Well, I mean, not Josh Foreman. Who? Anyway, Grouch.
Brilliant.
Josh Foreman. I still follow Josh Foreman on Twitter, but no, this was Grouch.
Yeah.
And he tweeted, "Oh, just a little 3,000 word update for you guys this morning."
Really? This is 3,000 words? I gotta be honest,
so.
I've scrolled down real quick. It didn't look like 3,000. But okay, well, here we go. So they say Studio Update, Spring 2023 on May the 1st. Welcome to the latest installment of the ArenaNet Studio Update, your go-to resource for Guild Wars 2 development news. Today we'll address some community questions. Oh, it's like a Q&A. Regarding our announcement back in February, share an updated roadmap through the beginning of summer, and then talk at a high level about our longer-term projects that extend beyond June. Okay, so the content model questions and answers. Oh, is this them clarifying stuff about the Expacs?
Because it's a Q&A, but it's the Qs are what they've been hearing from the community, not so much actual questions from the community. And it's trying to clarify.
They gave some answers, but I don't know whether they really offered that much clarity before. And for what it's worth, I don't know whether I actually talked to you about... Did I talk to you about how you feel about this whole yearly thing?
I don't think we have talked about that.
So what was your... Real quick, because people will want us to get into it, but what was your general take? Optimist or pessimist?
I think my general take was that to solve the problem that they defined as our content hasn't been very regular and hasn't been very we haven't had a good way to figure out exactly what we're getting and when we're getting it.
Predictable, consistent.
Exactly. This is a good solution to that problem, but it brings up several other problems possibly, but not that we have to see it until we know for sure.
So that's a very waffly way of saying you're not an optimist. I'm going to say you're a pessimist.
I'm not a pessimist. I think it's going to be good for the game going forward. I just I want to see it first.
The proof is in the pudding. You got to actually see them follow through with it, I suppose. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. In our February update, we outlined some changes we're making in our development approach that allow us to deliver new content, features, and core game updates more consistently. It was a lot of information to take in, and understandably, there are some lingering questions. We've been keeping a close eye on discussion, and we've compiled some responses. I wonder whether this is actually going to be really illuminating. Question: I've been lost in the tangled depths for the last 2 months with no cell phone service, and I missed the news. What's the TLDR? So we're changing how we deliver updates to the game so we can adopt a more consistent release schedule, minimize the content droughts. I like how they actually quote that there, because I feel like that's such a hated term, and then here they are sort of embracing it a little bit in the blog post. Increase our support for the core game. Like, I remember the first time they talked about a content drought in a big way was actually when all the raid wings were coming out after Heart of Thorns. Actually, I guess pre-Heart of Thorns was a big one too.
There was one, yeah.
Increase our support for the core game. Now that I like to hear. Rather than releasing an expansion every 2 to 4 years with 1 to 2 seasons in between, we'll be releasing smaller expansions with a lower price much more frequently. In the new model, the first release in an expansion cycle will introduce a new story arc and a new setting, 2 maps, 2 strike missions, new gameplay and combat features, new masteries, new rewards. And so obviously they're not saying elite specs there. That's one of the big questions. Oh, Boots, I bet they confirm if elite specs are a part of it or not here.
They
I bet they do.
They do answer it, yeah. And but it's still not entirely up in the air, but yeah, it's pretty confirmed.
Okay, that sounds a bit iffy, but
we'll go to it. Okay, we'll talk about it then.
Okay. In the following quarterly updates, we'll add story chapters, an additional open world map, challenge modes for the strike missions, a new fractal, and a new challenge mode, new rewards, additions to the new systems introduced in that expansion. Now that's a big thing, that there's new systems, air quotes, and then expansions on it. Yeah. Sounds kind of like masteries, right? But
it does.
They list new masteries separate, so hey. And depending on the release plan for the expansion, new gameplay and combat features. Ooh.
Yeah,
that's where Elite Spec can fall under. Alongside these content expansion updates, we're beefing up our support for the core game so we can iterate and improve on Guild Wars 2, even while releasing a new expansion upon a more consistent schedule. Once that expansion's year-long cycle is complete, the next expansion will be just around the corner. Again, I hate these blog posts, man. I really hate the way they're written. This, to me, feels like an internal, memo that you send up to, a director away above you or something. It's so impenetrably... there's something really off about it. This isn't how you talk to the community, I don't think. And
it's interesting too. So they're confirming they're all going to be year-long cycles. So that is very direct, saying each expansion is going to be coming every year. So that is a question we had before, I think.
That's
whether it's
true,
going to be a year and a half, who knows? But it's a year-long cycle. What it doesn't confirm is how many additional releases you'll get within that year. So that's something I think that is probably still going to be it'll probably depend on what the expansion is. It'll depend from expansion to expansion how many actual post-release updates you'll get within that year.
I think on all the ways that they can be hazy about this big shake-up, I don't begrudge them being iffy about that detail, because I bet for them they don't even really have a great idea of how many they'll do, and they're really scared of locking themselves into crunch or whatever, and then having that inevitable follow-up blog post where they say, we know you were getting 3 releases, but now you'll only get 2, sorry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also just like back in Living World, when they started giving a map with every Living World episode, they reiterated, it never really took, but they did say that they'll only add maps when they need to, or if it's good for the story for Living World. But that never actually happened. They pretty much always added a map during Living World.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, that's very well remembered. Yeah. I mean, they did current events and stuff, but you're totally right that it was just a vague idea that then they just kept going with until it was the expectation, and they were sort of locked in.
Exactly.
Okay, so question: do smaller expansions mean that there are fewer developers working on Guild Wars 2? Oh, this is cool. No, quite the contrary. In fact, thanks to the growth we saw in 2022, we're increasing the size of the dev team. I think I saw a tweet about this actually a while ago.
I've definitely seen tweets where they're promoting different job openings at ArenaNet.
Yeah, but specifically knowing they're going on to Guild Wars 2 is obviously good as a Guild Wars 2 fan, because there's this secret conversation going on, which is, okay, how much resource is being allocated to whatever other MMO you're making, because we all know you're clearly making something else, right? That's the underlying conversation. But they're saying Guild Wars 2 itself is getting more people, largely in content and systems. We've already hired a bunch of new folks since January, and we'll be opening additional roles throughout the year. Okay, so to tie this in real quick, just as Boots and I sat down to record this, we noticed there was a Guild Wars 2 patch, right as we got on Discord, right? Apparently, what did you say, Boots, happened with the patch?
Apparently it's a little bugged.
Yeah, all the dynamic events in the entire game are broken, but you said in the patch notes refactoring? What did they say they're doing?
Well, later on, I remember reading a line that one of the things that they're planning to do to the game is to refactor the code. And generally, refactoring shouldn't break the code, but,
so
when you change...
How do we interpret this? My understanding there is, combined with this thing we just heard about them hiring a bunch of new folks, my guess is a lot of it's really tricky and archaic and weird to read for new talent.
Sure, yeah.
So they're trying to clean it up, basically, for more people.
If they have new talent, it'd be good to have cleaned up code for sure, in order for them to be able to understand things quickly and understand what they could change.
This is really good. I like this whole thing here, because this does sound, they said it before, all right? that Guild Wars 2 is what they care about. They're doubling down on Guild Wars 2. They're going big with it. But, you know, it's difficult to believe in a lot of ways, right? After years and years and years of them having background projects and then the sudden disappearance of everything at the end of Season 4 and all that kind of stuff. So I think when I read stuff like this and details like you just said with the patch notes, that's really good. It really does sound like they care about this MMO and it's worth following for years. Do you know what I mean? It really isn't going anywhere. Even if they have something else that they'll release inevitably, it would go alongside Guild Wars. It wouldn't supplant it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like that a lot. Okay, cool. So how does this shit... Oh, by the way, I also kind of like... They're a little bit clever here because this is going to give people the impression that Guild Wars 2's team is going to be bigger than it's ever been or something. But I seriously doubt that. I bet it shrunk epically throughout the Archbrood Saga and End of Dragons, and now it's starting to tick back up. I would guess that that's the actual situation there. But it's good, right, that the team's grown?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so question, how does this shift result in more support for the core game? Oh, let's start by defining the core game. Good,
yeah,
I agree.
I wanted to point on this when you were like, ooh, the core game. This is...
Yeah, what is the core game? To me, that means... Are they going to focus on systems and maps and content pieces that are not in expansions? That's what that means to me.
I think it's more than that.
Okay, well, let's see what they say. And I assume what you think is what they think.
Because I read it?
Core is typically viewed as synonymous with the base experience. Anything that doesn't require an expansion. I think that's fairly in line with what I just said. Systems-wise, that's a huge chunk of the game. Core Tyria and the story up to level 80. I mean, yeah, oh god, if they're going to confirm to cleaning up story, professions, world versus world, structure PvP, dungeons, fractals, crafting, the list goes on. It does.
Wait, hold on a second though. Story up to level 80, does that include the Zaitan fight? Because
come on, don't do
but
that.
I mean, the Zaitan fight happens just after you reach level 80.
Come on.
So if it's story just up to level 8, okay, fine.
Yeah, I like that. They'll end it here. What is the 80 story step? Reaching Fort Trinity or something, maybe? A little bit into ore? It just randomly stops at the Ketamans. In the context of supporting the live game and our new dev strategy, Core also encapsulates the long list of content and features that have been added to the game over the past decade. When we introduce features to Guild Wars 2, we want those new tools to be relevant across the entire game, past, present, and future. Because the systems introducing expansions like Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, and End of Dragons are so ubiquitous and central to the player experience, they deserve iteration just as much as any true core system. I mean, that sounds lovely. I mean, don't try to sell me too much here. I'm going to think it's snake oil, but I really like that. I like the thought that they'll go back to POF bounties, right? And then they'll become relevant again. And it's just efficient, isn't it, too, right? Like, they have good stuff in the game. They don't need to keep reinventing the wheel. Just pick it back up, you know?
Yeah, and just more adventures.
More adventures. Yeah, End of Dragons is very lax on that, right? So
it was, yeah. There was no adventures in End of Dragons.
Yeah, and as opposed to, like, POF... Well, see, POF was a bit lazy because they were all supply runs, which nobody liked. But then there were the Griffin races, which
Hey,
were
now
amazing.
don't spoil it for me. I'm still on my way to get there. I haven't done them yet.
Oh, okay. Wait, what? The Griffin races?
I've done some of the some of the Griffin races. I just haven't done all the adventures in POF yet.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Are you including Season 4 in that?
I got the Beetle. And I did all
it's
the
all
Beetle
more
races.
the same, really, Boots. It's just supply runs and Griffin races, really. But
okay.
Well, whatever.
Right.
I've been spending loads of time in POF, weirdly enough, lately, because I've been getting goddamn trinkets. Anyway, over the past decade, our development strategy has skewed more towards addition rather than Oh, I love this sentence. It's true, and they're acknowledging it. Has skewed more towards addition rather than iteration. That's not a bad thing by default, but every dev strategy has trade-offs, different pros and cons. In this case, it meant the core game took a back seat. Meanwhile, the number of features slowly crept upward without a plan or designated resources to maintain them. Oh my god! Dude, I gotta be honest, right?
That's a big problem, especially with the mastery system, especially with living world masteries, in my opinion, because it's addition rather than iteration. And yes, you're iterating on the mastery system, but you're just adding new masteries that are only used in certain maps. And if you could iterate on those eventually in the future and maybe bring them into other places as well, that would have been great.
Yeah, this is winning me around, man. I gotta be honest, I've gone into this a little bit cynical, but I really like that paragraph. That really speaks to me. That is, it would be very cool to see them looking back at stuff like that. Just the acknowledgement that they've skewed towards addition rather than iteration.
Does that mean that we're going to be getting some new guild stuff?
Yes, exactly. The list of things that they could go back to and prop up, like activities and stuff, is just insane. It would just be so good.
Yeah.
More than ever, we're confident in our future, and we're committed to a long-term support of this community. This is why we're taking on projects that will keep the game healthy in the long run, like refactoring, there's that word, large swathes of old code, optimizing our development tools, future-proofing world versus world in the world restructuring system, and updating our engine. Improving existing systems is also a key part of the strategy for Guild Wars 2, and by rescoping and redefining our future expansions, we were able to get started on core game improvements right after the release of End of Dragons. In a little over the year, these teams developed a significant list of changes, all while Expac 4's been in development. Yeah, but these have all been pretty boring. It's going to be stuff like the Mega Server thing. Yeah, well, let's see.
I don't know. I think queuing... Yeah. Well, let's read through them, and I'll tell you which ones I'm excited about.
Okay, well, Season 1 came back. What was your take on that?
It was good. It was important. It was very important.
Very important. They did less on it than I would have wanted, but it was important nonetheless. Steam launch?
I mean, that's good for the game. I thought that Living World Season 1 should have been in there before the Steam launch, but that's fine.
Well, most of it was, to be fair to them. Most of it was.
Well, yeah, you're right. Just the last 2, I guess, episodes?
Yeah, I think it was the last 2 that were missing.
Yeah.
And people have obviously got all of the leveling phase to do and the original story and stuff before that.
Yeah, Steam launch, I think, went well.
Okay, updated visuals and mechanics for multiple world bosses.
I don't know. Oh, wait, what? I don't even remember that.
They're very minor. I remember when I came back to the game, I was playing some world bosses, and I was like, "Oh, that's a new telegraph, or that's a new AOE."
Oh, okay, yeah,
little things
sure.
like that. There might have been more than that. I don't claim to be an expert. Anyone in the comments can fill me in if I'm wrong. Maybe they did update some models. Emboldened mode for raids. You done any of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I think this is a great idea, and I think I would like to know the stats on how much it improved the amount of people going into raids. I don't know.
It definitely... I don't know about the world of people who don't raid now doing it, but in the world of revitalizing those wings for LFG during that week, it's really good. Like, you'll see people running wings that they never normally would, and LFG is that little bit more populated for that, I think. So it has had a knock-on benefit. Reworked Fractal mislock instabilities. This one I don't remember or know. I've been doing loads of Fractals.
Yeah, I don't really remember it either.
Maybe that was much earlier in the year. Updated default keybinds. I remember that in a patch note. Didn't really care much about it.
Doesn't matter.
Custom keybinding profiles. Multiple major profession updates.
Is that just balance or?
Yeah, that sounds to me mostly like balance. What's a major update to a profession that happened this year? A major update to a profession.
I don't know. They reverted the mantras.
Oh yeah, the mantra change was quite big, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, not in a great way, but.
See, the problem with boots is we missed a couple of balance with boots last year.
We did. We should have done them.
Yeah. Well, we can get back on that if this really starts to feel good and positive and like I don't know, could be a good thing to get regular with again. A new Super Adventure Box map came out. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It was a beta, but yeah. An update to Dungeon, Strike Mission, and Raid rewards. High contrast mouse cursors. I actually use these. I use the middle tier one.
Okay.
A change to prevent all story instances from ejecting players who cross the instance boundary.
That's big.
Yeah, that's nice. World versus World quality of life improvements and reward updates. Which
I think that's ongoing.
Yeah, that's ongoing, isn't it? Didn't it sort of not work, or it was very exploitable, and then they reined it in again, and now we're sort of waiting?
Yeah, I think they're still doing some stuff with that.
A wide range of improvements to new player experience. A bank access from the Mystic Forge. A wardrobe and die randomizer. They also, by the way, they had Mystic Forge re-rolling and stuff, I think was this year, and they don't even have that listed there. A Black Lion statuette overhaul to make collecting and exchanging them more rewarding.
Right.
Yeah, that was actually massive. I only sort of recently realized what that had done. It means like you can get like skins that used to cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gold for one ticket and stuff now.
That's pretty good.
Like with the vintage Black Lion tickets and stuff. Mega 7 map queues, that's the most recent really.
And that's pretty important. I think that's pretty important.
What is this? Allied player visual effects filtering. Spoiler.
Oh, spoiler. So it's coming up, I guess.
Ooh, that's actually quite good. Not to harp on about Final Fantasy constantly, but they're very good in that MMO about letting you choose what you cull and what you don't.
So wait, does that mean that we'll be able to hide other allied players' mechs?
The entirety of the mechs. I don't know whether they'll do that.
Or at least make it small or something.
Make it like a little green moat, you know, like in the Mad King's clock tower, and then they just like. To be honest, that doesn't get under my skin. A lot of people complain about that, but I really don't mind too much the whole mech spam thing.
I mean, it's just, you know, like in meta events, it's like a lot of mechs. It's a lot of mechs.
What I thought you were going to say, though, was like auras and stuff like that. Maybe they'll let you...
I've never been too peeved with auras.
Well, me neither, but it is something that comes up a lot. So
I guess so. Yeah, sure. Well,
or it's our first instinct, and it's combat related. You know, one of those.
Yeah.
And more.
And more.
Despite that progress, you know, I'm a little bit disappointed in this, though, to be honest, because I did a quick scroll right before we started talking.
Wait, you just said you read nothing. No, hold on a second. Earlier in this episode, you told me you did not read anything.
No, I didn't. I just
And then
scrolled.
you chastised me. You chastised me for saying that I had read some stuff.
Yeah, no, I scrolled. I didn't read it. I didn't know what it was. See, I saw a long list, and I was like, oh my god, I wonder if that's all really juicy new things on that list. And now it just turns out it's a recap. That's what I'm saying. I hadn't read it, and I'm disappointed that it's not what I was hoping.
All right, fine.
Despite that progress, there's still much left to do. We take a lot of pride in our work and making our players happy. There's nearly infinite list of things we'd like to do. However, both time and development resources are finite. If you've ever heard a developer talk about constraints, that's what they're lamenting. So we must be very intentional with where we focus our efforts. All right, whatever. Let's keep going. I'm really nervous about someone watching this bored at the moment because we've not.
They would never be bored. I'm here.
No, I know. I like just sitting and chatting, but I am nervous because, you know, in a newsy video, people want it in the first 30 seconds, and if you don't give it to them in the first 30 seconds...
This isn't a news video. This is a... I don't know what this is.
A chat about the future of Guild Wars 2.
There you go. Okay, I'm drinking sake. So, you're sober?
I'm sober.
I assume. Didn't you?
Yes,
You said you just woke up.
Why wouldn't I be sober? Why does that even come up?
Oh, yeah, I guess not. Well, because I'm drinking sake.
Oh, I didn't... Did you tell me that already?
I just said it. Right before I said you're sober.
Okay,
You just don't listen to me. That's what
I missed that little detail. I did miss it. Okay, so we must be very intentional with where we focus our efforts. For now, we're addressing systems that will positively impact as many players as possible. And as time goes on, we can dig into more niche areas of the game. Well, the other thing here is obviously... what the update should really seek to do, and to my mind, most of the time, is if you have something very niche, try to make it more applicable to more players with the update, you know. It's like activities are very niche right now. If there was ever an activity-related update, the idea would be to make it more transparent that it exists in the game, more rewarding to go to, and so on.
And please update the leaderboard so that you could actually see who's in the lead, and perhaps clean up the leaderboards to remove some
you mean
things.
Adventures?
Oh, yeah. What were you talking about?
Activities like keg brawl and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, activities. Yeah.
All right, the February studio update said that future expansions will include combat features and didn't mention elite specializations at all. What does that mean?
That's right.
Okay, so Boots, have you read this? Do you know what this is about to say?
I have read this. Would you like me to read it this time?
Yeah, go ahead. You give us your lovely voice for this bit.
In the current design Oh, wait, sorry. In the current design...
You got to do it the whole time now. It's got to be
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing
We've done this, just so that people know, in multiple videos, Boots has done this, and he's never made it very long in the Kermit voice. He always gives me a few words, and then that's it.
I get embarrassed. In the current design and implementation of elite specializations, we feel that with every new expansion, there's been increasingly limited design space left to add new and differentiated roles for each profession. That's true.
Create it. It's easy to create. Mess with the boons and whatever. Go on. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. I agree. Once you lose all the design space when it comes to what a role needs, because I think we're at the point where roles professions don't need that many things with new elite specializations, but they can still design new things that they don't need. But that's difficult. That is difficult. Anyway, in other words, most of the playstyles that we'd like to see supported for each profession already exist or should exist within their existing elite specialization options. With our next expansion, our goal is to further augment the combat options of each profession by adding new tools to their arsenal and by lifting constraints that will unlock an unprecedented number of playstyles customization options, while keeping the feel of Guild Wars 2 combat true to its origins. Theory crafters are going to be very busy.
Whoa.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds like maybe they're gonna make it so that you can. This is my guess for that particular line. My guess.
Can I just say, right before you say this, I have a guess too, and I'm terrified. There's an idea here that I really don't like the sound of, and I'm scared that it's what they're going to do, and I'm scared it's what you're about to say as well. So go on.
Okay, my guess is that they're going to allow professions to use the weapons of their elite specializations without having the elite specializations equipped.
Oh, that's much more tame than what I was thinking.
Okay, what were you going to say?
Maybe they'll do that. I don't know, the phrase unprecedented number of playstyle customization options. And there's this thing that people kind of ask for with Guild Wars.
Oh, the off profession?
Well, yeah, so because of Guild Wars 1, as far as I'm concerned, it makes no sense. It dilutes the theming of the characters. It's unbelievably difficult to balance. It's crazy.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
But people for years, there's kind of this very, and look, I'm going to be very arrogant here, all right? I'm going to be a bit condescending. To me, it's kind of a very, like, glossy, kind of, like, casual, haven't really thought about it very long sort of thing to request. But it's multiple professions. So Guild Wars 1 had multiple professions, so I want multiple professions in Guild Wars 2. And I get the thematic desire to be a Guardian Ellie again, or whatever, you know, a Guardian Monk, or whatever you want, right? Because obviously Monk doesn't exist anymore, or only Guardian exists now. But sure. I just think it's a really dodgy idea, and it kind of it shits all over what ArenaNet were trying to do with Guild Wars 2 when they moved deliberately away from multiple professions. It wasn't because it was something that was too difficult to do or they didn't have time for. It's because they specifically said, no, we have lost this sense of like class identity, so we don't want to do this. And they were very clear about that in the blog post at the time, and I still agree with everything they were doing back then.
So you think that they're going to give us something like the option of pick, instead of an elite specialization, you're allowed to pick the core specialization, one core specialization of another class?
Well, that might be an idea. See, here's the thing though. I'm scared of that. I'm scared of just the multiple professions thing. But they do say keeping the feel of Guild Wars 2 combat true to its origins, which is like a little glimmer of light for me. I sort of feel like that's speaking to everything I just said about the early design and them specifically moving away from it. So they might do it, they might not. Your specific proposal there, where you get to just sub one line for a basic line of another profession, maybe with some associated skills or something, that could maybe work.
But it would be insane. No, because there's so many traits in other classes, in other professions.
Yeah, I know, but
that refer to things that your class wouldn't have. That it just wouldn't work. They would have to tweak a lot of. It's a huge thing, but remember the context of this post. They're talking about more developers, a focus on the game, looking at core systems, blah 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 blah. You know, we all live, I think, in the Guild Wars 2 community right now. If you're active in this community, if you've been long enough to get jaded by it, we all live in this world where we're crushed into this tiny little box where there's walls all around us, and we have no idea really what ArenaNet will do, because almost anything interesting sounds too ambitious, frankly, unless it's jumping in a ton of new areas. So we all have that perspective. That might be changing going forward. So maybe there's space for it. I'm not a fan of it. It does sound like a lot. I'm not a particular fan. I think it's unlikely that's going to happen.
But Boots, I'm going to be mean to you now. I think your idea of just taking an elite spec weapon, I don't think that's very exciting. I don't know whether. Do you really think people would go wild for that?
The reason I suggested it is not because I thought it was a fantastic idea,
but because it's realistic.
Because it's realistic, yeah.
Yeah, see, this is what I mean. But you're right. It is realistic, but it's now so realistic, it's uninteresting. I don't think I would actually chew on that much. Theory crafters are going to be very busy, are we?
With that particular thing, yeah, I think so. I think you'd be a little busy, yeah.
See, we have very different mindsets when it comes to balance and buildcraft and stuff like that as well. So it's actually really good that you're here too to sort of give that other side of it. Because for me, I don't know. No.
But I mean, if you want to take theory crafters are going to be very busy. As like, first of all, they didn't put a exclamation mark there. They didn't put asterisks around the very. They didn't bold or. They didn't bold or italics the very.
Equally, it's its own sentence. It's not a subordinate clause. It's there on its own to give it some emphasis and some impact. And some interest.
So you're saying it's gonna whatever they're talking about here is gonna be more interesting than the weapon thing.
But that might just be me being a stick in the mud. So I don't know. Because here's the thing: I don't really know what else this could be. If it's not the secondary profession thing, if it's not a couple of new weapons, what might it be? I mean, I did some videos about this idea I actually did one video with like 5 concepts. If you guys want to check that out, from like 2 months ago or something.
Oh.
With the whole Ascension spec thing. I don't know. But
Yeah.
okay, so anyway,
I will say that the problem is it's not like this sentence that they say beforehand. All of this lifting constraints and stuff like that. It doesn't give me any clue that this is possibly the thing that could happen. But I definitely wanted us to be able to, through masteries or whatever, unlock new utility skills possibly that are usable by any profession.
Like the antitoxin spray of old?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But better.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it was an idea. That's a good thing to hone in on as well, lifting constraints. And that's where your weapon thing is perfect, right? Because that's a constraint that they would lift.
Or perhaps an ascension, let's say, or mastery ascension trait line that every character could use.
Yeah.
One elite specialization that anybody could use, like the Paragon.
I wonder if it's something like you can have a 4th line, but
that would be too powerful.
But no Grandmasters or something. I don't know. Just the lifting constraints thing.
Yeah.
It depends how heavy of an idea it is, you know.
Yeah, that's why I honestly think it's not that heavy of an idea. I think it's gonna be a light idea, but definitely. If this is the first idea they have for the first yearly expansion, it's big enough for 1 year of an expansion.
Well, see, that's the other thing. I think if they're smart, whatever they're thinking of right now should be something all the yearly expansions can tap into. Do you know what I mean? Like create something that can go, like Elite Specs. And to be honest, I know there's been some talk like we have enough Elite Specs. We don't. I think we have at least 2 other generations of Elite Specs within that to have been paid off there. And whatever limited design space they think they have right now, I disagree with. I think they can actually squeeze a bit more design space out for a few more. The truth here is probably that it's way too much effort. It's too difficult to do that many Elite Specs in 1 year. And that's perfectly fair. And I wish that that's what they'd actually said. And so we're going to something else. But yeah, I don't know. Like, This is an update born out of needing to be efficient rather than anything else. So I think whatever they move to should be able to be efficient.
What about this? Ready?
Yeah.
Lifting constraints is this. You now have a Guild Wars 1, the signet the capture signet, skill capture signet.
People like that.
And then in the new expansion, there's bounties and there's 1 bounty for each profession. And when you skill capture on those bounties, you get an elite skill from that profession, no matter what profession you have.
I mean, that's a cool idea. I really think that is a cool idea, and I think people would love that. I don't know how that's lifting constraints.
Because you're using an elite skill from a different profession.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so it's kind of like cross professions light. Now that's cool. I really do like that, Boots, and I can kind of see that working.
Yeah. Because elite skills are good.
You've got 2 ideas mixed in once there, haven't you, really? You've got capture signating, and then you've got just take an elite skill from someone else. Rather than taking trait
I had the implementation and then also the reward.
Okay. No, I see it. I see that. Mm-hmm. An elite skill is kind of the perfect thing as well, because, you know, taking 1 random utility skill might not have that much flair or impact. 1 heal skill. Right. Maybe a weapon from another profession is an idea. But
I think that opens up a can of worms.
Very well. Sorry?
I said I think a profession... Oh, actually a weapon from another profession. Yeah, that could work. I was thinking it could open up a can of worms, but I think it could work too.
Well, we'll have to see. So the subtext to all of this, just to round it out as well, is we're still not... we are confirming no elite specs, but we're going to titillate you that there's a replacement. That's what that actually is.
And it comes right after them talking about how they talk... That there is... what's it called? Not design space. They just talked about constraints that developers are lamenting. So remember, we have all these crazy ideas that could happen, but developers have constraints. So
because they're trying to do this every year, which they didn't necessarily have to. They could have stayed on 2-year expansions, gone with a different format. But okay, and this is quite interesting as well. They put this right in the middle. They've tied it with something nice. I think this is the piece of news they're probably most scared about, that there's no elite specs. You know, you and I have been quite excited about what might replace them, but I think you and I were already in a place where we were probably expecting elite specs were going to get cut. There's another side of the community, I bet, that wasn't expecting that and was hoping it wouldn't be true. And I wonder now. I wonder if this was received badly. If I wanted to be a monster about this, I could title this video "No More Elite Specs." And that's the main news here, really, because that is the news, and it's quite well
that is
concealed.
what sells. Those kind of titles do sell, but no, I don't think that's worth it because we don't know if there won't be new Elite Specs in the future.
Oh, come on!
I'm telling you, definitely not in the first expansion. The first year we won't get Elite Specs. The second year we won't get Elite Specs. But if they run out of tangential ideas that aren't Elite Specs for combat improvements, they might go back to Elite Specs.
I mean, yeah, anything's possible when you start thinking that far away. I think when they say with our next expansion, they are trying to do what you just said. They're trying to keep the space there that maybe they'll do Elite Specs. And I think a TikTok cycle of Elite Specs might be interesting. Elite Specs this Expac, but not the next one, this one, not the next one. That could have been interesting, or one every 3. There's also been this idea, we've done a lot of talk about this on the channel recently, about the idea that you do just one Elite Spec. You do like 2 at a time or 3 at a time or whatever. But they haven't really said any of that. I think a good blog post would have been more of a conversation like that, where obviously it's a blog post, not a conversation, but it would have said, we considered doing TikTok, we've decided not. We considered this, we've decided not, blah, 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 blah.
But they make a good point.
You just linked me something.
I did. I just sent you a thing I did in 20 minutes before an episode of The Lightbringers. Yeah. When they announced the new... when the question of why isn't Elite Specs mentioned in this new announcement thing came up. And the answer is because, technically, with just a few tweaks, all of our current Elite Specs can cover all the
current
quote-unquote necessary roles, except the one problem, I think, is Ranger and Warrior. Ranger has Alacrity, Warrior has Quickness, but they're both on core specs.
Yeah, they're weird for that, yeah.
So you can't give them shared...
But I mean, that's just the other balance that they would do. It's not an insurmountable issue. That's just more balance to do.
I guess not.
Yeah, that's a nice little thing. I just put that up on the video as well so people could look at it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Yeah.
So hold on. You've done a whole podcast about this as well.
Not about this post, about the last post.
Oh, that was from before. I was going to say, Jesus, 30%. All right, how does... Wait, where are we now? Yeah, how does What Lies Beneath quarterly release differ from future expansions quarterly releases? Oh, this is very good as well. Because obviously this was very light and people don't want to hear that it's like that forevermore.
Exactly.
Beginning with the 4th expansion, there will be new content updates every 3 to 4 months following an expansion.
So they're saying 3...
I don't like this thing.
Yeah, so hold on a second. You get... Beginning of the year, you get the expansion drop. Bam. You get, I don't know, 2 maps, and you got stuff to do. Then 3 to 4 months. So that means either 4 times a year or 3 times a year there's updates. But since you already got that first blammo, it's either 3 updates after that or 2 updates after that.
Well, yeah, it can only be 2. If it's 4-month gaps, for example, which they've left themselves room for here, you can only realistically get 2 before now your next one would overlap with the subsequent expansion.
That's right. So if you do it every 3 months... If it's every 3 months... Hold on. If it's every 3 months, let's say you release in January. 3 months later, you release again. 3 months later, you release again. No, you could do 3. You could do 3.
Yeah, but they haven't said that. They've left themselves... I think Boots was still in the exact same conversation we were in as a part of the last communication, which is we don't really know how many releases we'll get.
But it says every 3 to 4 months, so it's either 3 releases after the main release or 2 releases after the main release.
Do you think, then, that they will be uncompromising on the yearly date for the next X? You think they'll be... Really?
Yeah, that is my understanding of this post. That every year you will get 1 new expansion.
But you see how you can fit that in, even if it's drifted a bit. Even if the Expac came out a couple of months later, you can still technically say it came out.
No, because then because then you have the issue of the whole reason they're doing this change is to have expected content at a predictable rate.
No, I agree. It's not good. It's not ideal, but I feel like they've left themselves that room because they're in that same situation where they, as with Living World or whatever, where they don't want to commit to a hard schedule because they're scared they won't be able to maintain it, like we said earlier in this video.
But then it's literally the antithesis of what they're trying to do with this whole new update.
So you think that
I think
they're going to be
they're gonna
unrelentingly hardcore about that same day every year for a new Expac. And if that means that sometimes you only got 2 living world patches, then screw it. That's all you get.
No, I think the reason they say every 3 to 4 months is not because they're like wishy-washy about whether or not they could make the yearly update. I think it's because they don't know whether or not each expansion will require 2 new following updates or 3 new following updates story-wise.
Really? You think that story dictates that?
I think story and probably content of things that they want to put in the expansion.
I think having things happen with the game that gets people talking about it and makes them money comes first, rather than anything else.
So you think that in an ideal world they'd always do 3 months?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think that they'll drift the expansion release date. Personally, I'm not convinced that.
I mean, I feel like they don't want to, but it probably might happen.
Yeah. But the big takeaway is we can expect a nearly living world-ish cadence. 3 to 4 months. That's basically living world as we knew it for many years.
Yeah.
And then about every year, maybe exactly every year, maybe slightly around, we'll have a whole new expansion as well. So it does kind of sound like there's going to be as well. We can definitely ballpark things now, so it is a bit better. We can ballpark that there'll be 3 to 4 updates.
Remember the good old days when it was 2 to 3?
Wait, what? What do you mean?
There's a period of time where it was every 2 to 3 months instead of 3 to 4.
Oh yeah, well, Jesus, you want to do that in Living World Season 1? It was like every 2 weeks for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that wasn't real. That wasn't real updates though.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the Season 3 era was pretty goddamn good.
Season 3 was great. Season 4 was very good too.
Season 2, they went really quick, but then they had a big break in the middle, and it was just not working. But anyway, all right, there you go. So for context, there was no. We probably should have read the rest of this. For context, there was no new Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons story content released from February to February last year, largely because the team worked on the expansion up until its release. We delayed new content until a month or 2 later. Comparatively, the 4th expansion hasn't even officially been revealed yet, and we're already making headway on its quarterly release content.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it's all in one, which is what they said before. It's all the same thing, essentially.
Right. So this is interesting, actually. So a lot of people were considering the fact that we didn't get any content between 2022 and 2023 after the release of End of Dragons was because they were still working on Season 1 and releasing that. But what they're saying is that it wasn't Season 1 that delayed it. It was because...
sorry, Boots. Whoever said that, that's a bit silly. Because Season 1, obviously, was a very minimal job. They were obviously doing other stuff than Season 1.
Well, sure. Of course they're always doing stuff at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, even within the Guild Wars 2 hemisphere.
Yeah, but the fact that they've been working on the 4th expansion,
yeah,
right after the release of End of Dragons is something that I don't know if we knew for sure. Especially that means that they were working on the 4th expansion and they knew it was going to be in this new yearly cadence.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, it's very difficult to know how... There's obviously a huge delay, right? A decision was probably made a long time ago now. Yeah. There's a huge delay before you see the fruits on it. I kind of don't like this sentence, because they're sort of being so sneaky. This is kind of like... Let's remember, the expansion is only 2 maps. So this is kind of like them saying, oh...
Wait, the expansion is 2 maps?
It's better now because we're working on the... It's like they're suggesting they weren't working on the Echovald Forest or Dragon's End map, but now they are already. I mean, obviously they're working on the next map as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're sort of...
I don't know if I know what you mean. Okay, go from the beginning. You started saying that the expansion was only 2 maps. What is that?
Well, the new expansion format is only 2
Oh,
maps.
right, the new expansion format. Okay.
Yeah, so they're trying to draw a comparison between End of Dragons and the new expansion and saying, look, we hadn't even started working on the other... But that's because it was all bundled out with the expansion itself. Now, you're deliberately separating it away and releasing it later. So, of course, you're already working on it, you know? Like, it's kind of... There's a little bit of a bluff in this.
I mean, that was definitely part of the blowback, if there was any blowback from the previous announcement of changing to this new thing, is that a lot of people think that it's packaging what you used to get for expansions for free, essentially, if you log in, into paid content instead.
Yeah, and you get it later. You have to wait multiple months for it all to actually manifest in the game. That is exactly what it is. There is no way around it. That is what it is. But you know, it does mean that the game will get regular releases. So there's that. As a
exactly.
positive.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah. Okay, so this is one of the biggest reasons we're excited about the transition. Additionally, as we laid out earlier in this blog, the 4th expansion's quarterly releases will be augmented by other types of content and feature updates that aren't included. I really like that. I want to see what they have to say more about core stuff. Okay,
yeah,
so...
I guess what it does is, even though I loved End of Dragons, it does, looking back at it, give you like a bit of it puts a bit of a shadow on End of Dragons in that it seems like it is lower value per money than Path of Fire and Heart of Thorns.
Yeah, because of the associated later content is so minimal. Yeah, for sure. End of Dragons does get thrown under the bus here, for sure.
Yeah, but I did love End of Dragons.
Spring summer roadmap updates. Here's a more detailed look at what's to come over the next 2 months. So they got their little infographic for us with 3 tiles on it. May 2, that's today. We have the Profession Balance update. Tomorrow's update will include Profession Balance changes, addressed outstanding balance issues, bringing some underperforming elite specializations like the Reaper. We're keeping this update on the lighter side with just over 100 changes in total, so the team can focus on delivering a larger balance update at the end of June.
Oh, so I didn't know about that.
Yeah, me neither. If you missed the balance update, we have one there.
How about
I did read all of that. I can't remember if I covered it in any way. I think this
doubt you did.
This is while my whole move has been going on, so I think...
How about June 27th we do Balance with Booch?
We could do that, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's pen that in. May 23rd. So what is that, 20 days away? New End of Dragons content, What Lies Within. Oh, so the next patch is on the 23rd.
So it was What Lies Beneath, and now it's What Lies Within.
Oh, that's true. So this will conclude the story that began earlier this year in What Lies Beneath. Together with your allies, you'll tackle new story chapters and a new capstone encounter for the Dagala Delve meta event. There you go. And it felt like that as well. Anyone who watched my coverage of that at the time, like, it really did feel like they were going to do a little bit extra at the end of that event. That will have your squad breaking through an old tunnel to the surface to put an end to the demons of the depths. Oh, so we're going back up now.
Yeah, we're going back up. That was, I think that was written in an article that I read recently.
Oh, really? I kind of like the idea that you'd keep going down. In the next patch.
I think you go back up through a small tunnel. I don't know if it was some reporter that mentioned that, the next episode is all about trying to escape from the depths.
Okay. Once the danger has been cleared out of the Gyala Delve, the map will enter a more peaceful state fit for exploring. Several new adventures, Boots!
Yeah!
Will become available, including our first cooperative adventure featuring the Siege. Oh, that is cool. I like the thought of that.
That is cool, but, I'm a loner. So I'll need your help,
it'll be like a
maybe.
driver-gunner situation
sure.
on some kind of a race, probably. That's cool.
Okay, I might need your help.
Yeah, that would be... I mean, man, obviously, you can play with friends, but the good thing about Guild Wars is you can just go in and randoms will get on there, which is... that's really satisfying to me about the turtle when randoms just jump on.
Yeah.
Or I jump on randoms. Earlier Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons maps will share in the updates. Oh, they're updating the earlier ones. New Siege... Sorry, what? We'll share in the update with new Siege Turtle, Jadebot, and Skiff adventures. I see. Oh, there's adventures all over the...
Jadebot adventures, that's interesting.
I bet that'll be like, the Heart or some of the story instances where you're flying around on the robot. I bet it'll be
that's
like
great. I love that.
Oh, you'll also start running into Oni in the Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons map, stalking for the shadows to strike unsuspecting adventures. Just like in Guild Wars 1.
Just like in Guild Wars 1, yeah. So, but that means that's probably tied to the story, right?
Yes, I just thought that too. So, this is going to start something. It's going to be demons roaming around and being more active for some reason. We're not going to be entirely successful, it seems, in this next story.
Yeah, maybe we release something that we weren't supposed to.
That's nice. I like that as well, because that kind of has a little hint of original living world ideas, where the actual world itself would change as the story progresses. And you're getting a bit of that feeling. Alongside the new content, we've got a plethora of new rewards to pursue. In addition to a bevy of treasure chests and achievements awaiting your triumph in the Gyala Delve, new collections will put you on the road to unlocking a new set of armor skins for braving Cantha's dangers, and there will be new weapon skins and unique weapons done as well. I always mentally tune out with paragraphs like that. Okay, new rewards. This release will be the last story update in the End of Dragons release cycle. Keep an eye out for hints towards the future and look forward to the upcoming Fractal, where you can peer further into the shadows under the Jade Sea.
Okay.
So there are 2 updates for End of Dragons. That's it. And then,
yeah.
And then they move on.
I mean, that's what we expected, right? After that first update came out.
After the announcement. But this is actually really big, okay? Let's be very, very, very clear here. That this confirmation that this is the only... that there's only 2 patches, and the next one is May 23rd, all right? That sounds like bad news. Oh, we didn't get much content, blah, blah, blah. But actually, think about what that does for their timeline in terms of the release of the new expansion. They have cleared the deck. By 20 days from now, they have cleared the deck so that the next major release is the next Expac.
And when do you think that's going to be? Because
come
probably,
on, it's going to be this year.
It's going to be this year, but it's going to be 4 months. So do you think it's the end of the summer? Like they do?
No,
like
I think
they released. Yeah.
I think it'll be Halloween. I think it'll be around Halloween.
Okay.
That's actually huge as well, guys, because if Boots' theory that they'll be pretty unbudging with the timing each year, it kind of means that Halloween is the big time for Guild Wars every year because there'll be an Expac every... This is really interesting, man. I think Halloween at the earliest, Christmas at the latest, but this here actually does... See, when the news came out a couple of months ago, a lot of people were saying, oh, I wonder if the Expac's this year. It could be this year, it could be this year. And I saw a lot of people were dismissing that, and I myself even dismissed it to a degree. But I always thought it was a little bit credible. It's a little bit credible that maybe the Expac will be this year. Some of the comments from the devs as well have felt a bit like, oh, things are going to happen faster than you expect. So I don't know, man. I think it could be coming this year now.
It could be coming this year. It could. And I do want to say that... the fact that I don't know if it was this one, it was in the previous section where they talked about what they were working on between February 22 and 23. I think that because a lot of complaints are how small the previous update was, and probably, honestly, how small the next update is going to be. I don't think it's going to be large. It's probably going to be about the same size as the previous update. Mm. But I think they were trying to explain that it's because they were working on the next expansion, not necessarily these 2 updates. These 2 updates are kind of just a bridge.
Yeah.
So that gives me a little bit of hope, because I was in my mind I was tying these updates to the updates we'd be getting in the expansions, maybe slightly.
Yeah.
Too
Well,
much.
they asked that question. You saying all this has made me realize the answer that they gave wasn't really very good. I mean, they literally said, how does What Lies Beneath differ from the future expansions quarterly releases? They said they'll come every 3 to 4 months, and we're already working on it. But they didn't actually give us a sense of how big it'd be, did they?
Yeah, they didn't say it was more.
They didn't actually answer the question.
No.
Oh.
Wait a second. Hold on a second.
It says we're making headway.
I think the reason why they didn't answer the question, now that I'm thinking about it, the reason why they didn't answer the question is because they answered it in this way. They said that they're trying to not say that, okay, we understand these 2 releases are small. Sorry about that.
This is so corporate as well, Boots, because the way they phrased it is, how will it differ? And they technically have answered how it differs in terms of development. But the practical information we want, they haven't even really...
They don't tell you exactly how it differs. They tell you why it will differ.
Yes.
And and the reason why it will differ is because they've been working on the next expansion as opposed to necessarily this, which they probably, I guess they worked on previously somehow. I don't know how they worked on this, when they worked on this. Was it during the time that they were doing Living World Season 1? I don't know.
I think, though, Boots, I think it's all done in good faith, and I think they do want it to be. They want those patches to be meaty. I think I think they're just scared, as they always seem to be scared, to be candid about this sort of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I think that is.
That's fair.
Oh man, we still got a lot to get through here, it looks like.
Oh my god, how much more is there?
Let's keep going on. Let's pick up the pace a bit as well here. Okay, so, wait, where were we? Yeah, once you cleared out the Gala Delve, this will be the last update. Okay, here we go. June 6th, so next month. Dragon Bash, Allied Player Visual Effect Filtering, which they hinted at a second ago, and World vs. World Rewards. The annual celebration for our partnership for Dragon Slaying, the Dragon Bash Festival returns to Tyria on June 6th. The June 6th release will also introduce a new option in the settings menu, Hide Ally Visual Effects. This will give you control over whether visual effects are shown for allied players, pets, and minions. You were right with the mech thing.
Wait, does this mean...
Visual effects for pets, though. Maybe the pet will still exist. It just won't... You won't see its animations? I don't know.
Okay, sorry. I just read a little bit further, and the question I was just about to ask got answered.
Okay, so while the default settings hide no visual effects, just as it works now, you will now be able to choose from 3 new options to hide visual effects for all allied players, hide them for allied players who aren't in your squad, or hide them for allied players who aren't in your party. Some high-impact allied visuals that convey important information in combat, such as combo fields, cannot be hidden.
Yeah, that was the thing that I was wondering about.
This feels a lot like... I mean, we went through this in, like, 2013 with the visual effect culling thing, right? With the effect LOD and, like, does it turn off swirling winds or time warp and stuff like that?
Right. So, yeah, I guess you could hide basically anything as long as it's not a combo field.
I suppose so. Note this option only applies to allied players, so you won't be surprised by any invisible attacks from enemy players or creatures. Right. Well, that's very good as well.
That'll be good. I think that's a great idea.
What I think they need to do as well, really, with stuff like that, is they just need a very specific understanding of what the big effect outliers are. Like, when certain effects trigger on big hitboxes, big models, they have, like, just these enormous explosions of visual effects. Like the Rev Sword Auto does it, and is a big thing at the moment in the game. The giant birds from Ranger Warhorn Force, stuff like that has been around for a long... Sigil of Fire was like that for a while. I think if they just have a careful look at stuff like that, they can clean up a lot of the mess, especially in, like, large metas.
I wonder what will be the default for a new player.
I think it's... Didn't they just say it? It's basically as it is now. It won't hide anything. Probably. Okay. Hide none. I bet it's hide none.
It's probably hide none.
Yeah. Oh, it might be smart to hide stuff, because if it gives you performance as well, that's...
It does seem that, though, that it is just a pull-down menu, hide none, and then it's just who gets hidden, squad or party, or all. So it's not... there's no, like, drag bar that lets you choose how much of things you get hidden.
Yeah, no, it seems pretty... To be honest, Boots, this is a bit more primitive than I would have wanted from such a feature, but... Hey.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. Okay.
I mean, functionally as well, there's not much difference between hide, squad, and party. I mean, it's weird to think I'll be out in the open world and incentivized to join a squad so that their effects will cull away. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my god, that's true, yeah. But then you would just, if you want to do it, then you just hide all anyway.
Yes, that's true, exactly. So then those options feel a bit... Well, whatever. Alright, as a part of our focus on core game modes, we'll be releasing another round of World vs. World improvements, including the addition of a new infusion and a weapon set, and new ways to spend your unused skirmish claim tickets and emblems of the Avenger. Oh, the way to spend emblems of the Avenger is very good. I mean, I genuinely have like hundreds of those sitting around doing nothing. It was such a bad update that was like...
It's just useless afterwards. Yeah, this is great.
That was just a poorly designed aspect of that legendary trinket. An account-bound version of the infusion can be purchased after completing an achievement. Keep Lords will also have a chance to drop tradable ones when defeated. Rip Keep Lords. Okay. So
I worry how many people just deleted all their emblems of the Avenger.
You worry? I mean, just get them again. I mean, there's so many of them.
I mean, I know there's a lot, but there's probably like people, with 10,000.
What are you supposed to do with it? That comes up all the time. It's like someone might have deleted some trash that eventually later gets value. That's the risk of deleting the trash. That's their decision to have made.
I definitely have deleted a few, but still.
Cantha-themed Fractal Dungeon and Profession Balance. Do you know what's quite interesting about a Cantha-themed Fractal? We kind of had a preview of Cantha with a Fractal. It's like, oh, this is a taste of what's to come. This is where we're going with it, and this is going to be really interesting. And now, as we leave this era of the game, the End of Dragons era, we get another one, the second one. It's kind of like the expansion was bookended by Fractals.
Yeah.
Just a quick note from me here the following morning while I'm editing this. It just dawned on me, this conversation here, that there's really... The fact this is the end of Cantha, kind of... there's so many places that we're never going to go now. Like, I guess, when I said, there's going to be 2 Fractals, we had one at the start, one at the end, they might continue the Sorrowful Spellcaster kind of stuff. Draw a direct comparison to the Void, maybe, in the next one. But it could mean we go to Saitung again. We won't get the Saitung in any other capacity. we won't get another area of the Echovald Forest or the Kirin Peak or any of these places we've inspected. It's gone, it's done. And that's actually big news that I didn't think of when I was talking to Boots about this yesterday, which is a bit of a shame. I know that eventually they could do another dedicated yearly Expac back in Cantha, but I mean, we're probably years away from that if it happens. So kind of a sad thought, really. I hope that this Fractal picks a good place and a good time. The one thing I definitely don't want is the Jade Sea. We already have the Jade Sea Fractal. The newest map that came out through this release cycle was also the Jade Sea. I've had enough Jade Sea. You know what might be a really cool idea is Kaineng, but not new Kaineng, as we all know it now and people have a lot of problems with, but a Guild Wars 2 edition of original Kaineng from 250 years ago. Slum Kaineng. Done in the Guild Wars 2 style. Now, I get the sense that they avoided that because they couldn't do it very realistically. But hey, I don't know, in a Fractal, it's more narrow, it's more constrained. Maybe they could pull it off. That would be an interesting idea. But I mean, Cantha has so many cool locations. Somewhere around Urgo's Warren would be amazing as well. Since we had the Deep in an open world map, maybe having that other elite mission in a Fractal would be good. And then what about the mystery at Raisu Palace and stuff? Oh god, there's a lot they could do. Maybe keep an eye out for when I've got my internet sorted. I'll do the next fishing stream, and we can have a lot of further speculation about this kind of stuff, because, you know, we could talk for hours about this. New Fractals of the Mist content is just around the corner, but you're going to need to wait a little bit longer to hear the juicy details. However, okay, so they are, when they say core systems and updates, I bet they've got something good cooking for Fractals at the moment. However, we did want to share a quick note on how we're approaching its design. When we started development on the new Fractal, we took some time to review the feedback from our last Fractal release, the Sunqua Peak. One of the main themes in the feedback was that players prefer less waiting around, more action. That's absolutely true, especially when you're replaying this instance often. One of our goals for this upcoming release is to deliver a Fractal with tighter gameplay while still providing some story content as Fractals do. The challenge mode is scheduled for the following update, so we can tune the encounter and address bugs stemming from the normal version. So they're splitting that away as well, like with strikes. Yeah. As for the balance update, here's what we're looking to address. Improved feeling of moments. Do we have to read this, since, you know, that's kind of its own thing?
No, and also it's just what they're trying to do, not necessarily what they're doing.
Oh, no, I do want to read this. This isn't today's balance update. This is the one for June.
For the Fractals.
And it's a professional... Okay, so yeah, let's read it. Improving the feeling of moment-to-moment gameplay for many boon supports. We want these builds to have more flexibility in their utility skill choice. That's a very good thing to aim for. And not be required to press a particular utility type on cooldown to provide a quickness or alacrity. That's great. I love that idea of a change. I think that
would be nice. Yeah, I do enjoy a little bit of Spectre alacrity giving, but it's just Wells, and you can't do anything
over and over. Or Herald is just spamming the facets. There's a lot of things that feel that way at the moment, and I do think that's really good. I really like that. Introducing alternate play styles for some specializations, including quickness support, Deadeye, and damage builds for Druid and Temper. So filling in some of the slots that you have on your spreadsheet, basically.
Yeah, if you look at my spreadsheet, in 20 minutes I came up with an idea that apparently they're doing. So.
That's cool. Tuning up some underutilized weapons and solidifying their roles within their professions. For example, we're looking at further defining Ranger Sword as a mobile power damage weapon. Does that mean that they nerf Greatsword 3? Because right now... there's so much strong stuff about Ranger Greatsword 3. Anyway,
Greatsword is just very strong, yeah.
Removing additional skill type specific recharge reduction traits and rolling the reduction into baseline skills where it makes sense. The goal of these changes is to give players more interesting trait options to choose from. And we saw they were already doing this over the past year, and it's because it's easier to balance, so on, as they said.
I mean, this actually line does play into the possibility of giving elite spec specific weapons to non-elite specs.
It does.
Yeah.
Because those traits won't tamper with it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Long-range development initiative. So we're going further away now, after this next quarter. Hearing about what's coming through the end of June is cool and all, but what else is there? Well, here's a high-level look. Core game updates. All right, what are you doing for that? After Allied Visual Effect filtering releases, the team primarily responsible for core game updates will be turning their attention toward completing their most ambitious project yet. A rework of an existing core game reward system. Intriguing, right? This feature is still many months away from shipping. We're not ready to talk about it yet, but we wanted to let you know that they'll be heads down for this one for a while. Just want to make sure you don't assume they've been kidnapped by Scrit or something. In the meantime, we'll be looking for an eye on feedback regarding the Mega Server map queue and the Allied Visual Effect fears. So there's not really going to be many core game updates for a while.
No,
because they're
but
doing
what is
something
this?
big.
But what are they? What could this be?
A core reward system.
They've already done dungeons. They're not going to go back on that.
Oh, that's not a reward system, is it?
Isn't it?
The token change to it was.
Yeah,
a
that's a reward
update.
system. That's the system of the rewards. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you meant just dungeons in general. It could making dungeons rewarding would be a really good thing for the game, I think, and properly embracing them again.
I feel like they're done with dungeons.
I feel like they are too, but that's a huge conversation. I really don't think we should get into it. But I think that it would be good for the game, for sure.
Core game reward system.
The thing that I'm thinking of right now is,
It's not World vs. World, because they're doing that tangentially. There's other people working on World vs. World. Sorry, go ahead.
It could be dailies, weeklies, monthlies, stuff like that.
Oh, maybe, actually.
Because I think the game really, really could use some of that stuff. And then it could be just like dead content streams that they want to reinvigorate in some way. Which again, I think a daily update would be amazing. I really think a daily update would be huge.
I think it might be a daily/monthly update. Yeah,
and it could be achievement rewards as well, which are starting to run out and not that interesting. And the way they handle AP and
you know what else is a core game reward system that may need some updating?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Achievements
and titles and stuff. I would love to see them.
Guild rewards could use
guild rewards updating. Yes, guild rewards would be huge as well. Yeah But I mean, some of these can be fixed. Some of these systems don't need to be gutted. They just need something compelling to go for,
Exactly.
So some of them don't need months and months and months of work or big redesigns. They just need something exclusive that you can get from them. Like guild rewards in particular took a hit as soon as you could easily get ascended accessories from other currencies in the game, like berries and stuff. It kind of killed the guild missions because now commendations weren't needed for that big thing. There's no big ticket item. There's no legendary associated with them. There's nothing. So they fall apart. So just giving that is kind of a thing. But yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting. I'd love to hear in the comments, guys, what you think would be good for this, because this is quite exciting to me.
Me too.
Next, they have infrastructure improvements. As of April, DirectX 9 is no longer an option. And there were some very outlandish, crazy posts on the forums of people furious that now their ancient rigs can play the game.
Yeah, I can't play it on my Windows NT anymore. What the hell?
It's so weird, man. Whatever, anyway. So that's all done. What's next for the programming team? Our near-term focus is to knock away a few bugs and crashes related to the upgrade, finish updating our art production pipeline to DirectX 11, and finally begin the work of removing all DirectX 9 code. So it's not done. Basically.
Hey, do you think our 64 gigabyte file of Guild Wars 2 will reduce in size by like 12% because of all the Direct 9 code going away?
I have no idea. What makes you say 12%? That's just data, isn't it?
I just gave you a random number. That's why.
I don't know. I doubt that the textures and all sound files and stuff will get smaller, will they? That wouldn't necessarily be.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be nice though. If
anyway,
it does
this
reduce
is
in
kind of
size
funny. It doesn't actually sound like it. We're still working on DirectX 9 to 11. You just can't use 9 anymore. Is basically what they're saying.
It does sound that way, yeah.
Removing this code is the last remaining step that's preventing from us moving on to the most exciting part of the initiative, which is digging into the various technology upgrades that DirectX 11 enables. So eventually we'll get tech upgrades, but still there's a whole other buffer period we have to go through.
I do love that it's like, all the exciting DirectX 11 stuff. Aren't we already at DirectX 12, like almost at 13?
We're pretty far ahead, yeah. We're going to need some time to... Do you know what, Boots? I remember when Guild Wars 2 was coming out, on the old Guru forums, there were discussion threads about what type of DirectX the game should use. And I remember the studio eventually revealing it was going to be 9 and like explaining why and stuff. And then in the blink of an eye, it's a decade later and suddenly it seems like a foolish decision. But yeah, we're going to need some time to look into the feasibility of each one once we're finished removing the guts of DirectX 9. So we don't have too many details to share yet. At a high level, our investigation will focus on 2 areas: performance optimizations and graphics updates. While there are some global graphical updates we'll be exploring, most of the improvements will probably come in the form of new tools and functionality their eyes can leverage for future content. Right. The April 18th update also included an upgrade to Chromium. We already knew this. Aside from better load times and responsiveness, actually, I found it's about as responsive as it was before, and I'm getting weird errors on it.
I haven't heard good things yet. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the improvements here are invisible to the player. That's exciting. Our engineering programming team published a blog that will cover it all. Okay, World versus World. And then we got expansion 4, which is how it ends, and there's a picture, so bear with us, guys. So World versus World. The team has continued to mercilessly hammer code into compliance in preparation for the next phase of world restructuring, the introduction of alliances. I'm so bored of hearing about world restructuring, man. For years. When
was the first time we heard about world restructuring? Do you remember?
Ages ago. And every time I'm always just like,
I feel like it was 2017.
Waffle on to me about some more technical stuff about an update that I don't particularly care about. That work breaks down into 3 main categories: wrapping up the server plumbing needed to support our alliances, client data management to be specific, implementing the first pass of the alliance management interface, and 3, fixing bugs related to the matchmaking, team assignments, and World vs. World queues. We're targeting early to midsummer for the first restructuring beta with alliances. Functionality will be straightforward, but it should give guilds and alliances everything they need to manage their communities, create alliances, invite guilds, kick guilds, and leaving. All players that have selected a battle guild and alliance will be placed on a team together after the world restructuring event. Prior to that, we plan to run 1 more world restructuring test without alliances so we can test recent fixes to matchmaking, team assignments, queues, and some back-end work we've done to support the alliance feature.
I want to talk to you about this.
Well, let's get through the paragraph first. This will be our first multi-week world restructuring beta test, meaning that we'll be able to verify some teams are working properly into different matchups and tiers using the one-up, one-down system. We'll be following with a date for this test once it's been confirmed. Okay, what's your question?
No question. I want to talk to you about this. Okay, so yeah, we make fun of this being like ongoing for so long. Now, the issue is to me that there's a reason for this. Fine, yes, they have to get the coding right to make the balancing make sense, to make the team assignment make sense. There have been some issues, and yeah, they have to keep on doing it. Yeah, they have to also work on the rewards. There's a lot to do, but more importantly, the concept that they're going for going forward with this, the creating the alliances, making guilds ally with other guilds in order to make the servers, is such a intricate, important concept that there's so many back-end things that have to be done perfectly for this to work. If guilds don't buy in because everything else isn't perfect, then alliances aren't going to work. Guilds and players need to buy into alliances for alliances to work.
So you're saying there's a lot of pressure to get it right, get it perfect,
exactly,
because otherwise the whole thing's for nothing. Yeah, that's a good
exactly.
point.
So I want to give them as much time as possible to get it right, because, well, to begin with, I've always continuously said every time this is brought up that we need a better looking for guild in-game system for alliances to work.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, it like is an additional thing to it.
Some sort of like inside the UI, maybe attached to looking for group, probably not, but like,
well, there is an LFG section. There is, and there's a World versus World section. You don't think people will use that?
It's not good enough. It needs to be updated because it's as good as the looking for group system, which is also not good enough.
Okay.
So yeah, I think there's still work to be done, and I'm looking forward to it being done. But I want to give them the time they need to do it, because if they release the alliance system, hey, we're finally out of beta, alliances are ready, here you go, have fun, guys, and then it's just not good enough because of all the reasons I stated previously, and guilds don't buy into it, then World versus World is kind of done for.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is something I hadn't really thought about. I still think it's a bit farcical how long they've been talking about
yeah,
this.
Okay, fair enough.
And so on. But yeah, did they put a date on any of that? No, they didn't. So again, it's just more what we're doing, it's still happening, stay tuned kind of thing. All right, so the final thing, guys, this is the stinger of the blog post. Expansion 4. This is probably the thumbnail for the video. You've only had to wait an hour and a half for it.
Wait, how long have we been doing this?
An hour and a half we've been chatting.
Oh my god.
I know.
It's so tough to talk to you for an hour and a half.
It's tough to talk to me for an hour and a half. Oh, it feels like it's been 4 hours, to be honest.
It's been 12 hours. I'm an old man now.
Expansion 4. You already know all there is to know about the next expansion at this point, but we'd be remiss not to include it in this list. This is one of our top priorities right now, and each day the team is hard at work bringing a new part of Tyria to life, complete with a whole lineup of fearsome... By the way, Boots, your whole this expansion's in the mist thing kind of dies a little bit there. It's a new part of Tyria.
What do you mean?
They're bringing a new part of Tyria to life.
The mist is part of Tyria.
No, it's not. Complete with a whole lineup of fearsome baddies for the commander to beat up now that the Elder Dragons are no longer viable punching bags. Here's a small taste of what we're cooking up.
Those look very
napkin-y concept art here. Hold on, let's read this. Until next time, thanks for taking the time out of your busy day to learn about what our team's up to. We're excited about all the things lined up for the game this year, and we'll be gladly sharing the journey with you, the Guild Wars 2 team.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing that comes to mind when I see these entities, the bottom right one, has 2 penises.
Yeah, because they're not legs. No, it's just you're getting the perspective. Oh no, but there'd be shadows, wouldn't there?
Yeah. There's 2 penises. Wow. There's 2 penises. Yeah.
They feel vaguely familiar to me for some reason.
Maybe
they're a bit like the monoliths that we saw in the Realm of Torment. Is that what they remind me of? Maybe a little bit. Some of them.
A little bit. They kind of look like. So okay, Alona messaged me about them. She said they look a little bit like destroyers, and I said yeah, kinda. But they're kind of more sinewy.
Yeah, they're more insectoid. I mean, destroyers do kind of have that buggy, carapace-y kind of vibe about them, so I can see the comparison. But yeah,
and the fact that they're disjointed, held together, they're clearly held together by magic. They're not. Yeah. And they look very voidy, very demonic. I
mean, for sure. These are bug demons, for sure, right? Without a shadow of a doubt. They're demons.
They're demons.
There's no way that they're not. I mean, and then there's like a bug vibe to them. At first glance, for me, if this is like, oh, what's this like that we've seen in Guild Wars 1 or in pre-existing lore, there aren't any really loud bells ringing. Mm-hmm. It just feels vaguely demony. Maybe there's something I'm totally forgetting about, but I don't think so.
I mean, some of them look kind of like the fact that they're disjointed a little bit reminds me of like earth elementals, kind of. Yes,
it is very earth elementally. You're definitely right. There's something magical here, and I think for mist entities, that's probably very likely.
Yeah, they're like constructs of alien worlds.
Yes, yeah, and they're a bit like the Jade constructs that the Massart had, who also had like that mist association thing with it. So I think there might be something going on there. I will say though, guys, as far as like lore speculation is concerned, we're in an interesting place with this franchise now, where we're in new territory. You know, a lot of the entirety of Guild Wars 2 has its roots in Guild Wars 1 and things that Guild Wars 1 set up with the Elder Dragons and stuff. Or, you know, early promotional material about Guild Wars 2 that you could talk about and stuff. But now that we're kind of done, it's all done now. We're in really new uncharted territory. And on the one side, I think that could sound very captivating and exciting to people. But it also means there's not really too much to draw on. You know, we can try out the same old conversation about what the mists are, what demons are, the Kanaxai Oni story, which will probably have a connection because of this next patch, and then the fact there'll be Oni everywhere, right? We could talk generically about the lore of demons and the mists, but in terms of like really tangible, this area of the world has a mystery we still haven't seen, or there's actually a lot less of that on the deck now. And I think ArenaNet did that deliberately because they want their new talent to come in that doesn't really have any care or deep association and affinity with the early stuff, and they can just write their own thing. So, who knows? I mean, I will say, this is a lot. You know, as I said, I scrolled through this real quick. I saw this picture, and I thought, there's going to be loads to talk about. This looks like this was scribbled down in about half an hour.
This is talented work, thank you very much.
This is like a napkin pitch that they've just thrown up for. This is very little for us to go on here. I mean, Jesus.
I think I could talk for 4 hours about this, so that means that you could talk for 24 hours.
I can't believe how minimal this is. This is so minimal. I mean, it's not even like a frame out of a trailer. Because again, let's just remember, Jesus, they're saying no more updates after May 23rd. We're not even halfway through the year. You might think they got a trailer in
So are you reconsidering your previous statement earlier in the video where you said you think that the expansion can come really quickly this year?
A little, but not enough to actually change my mind.
Okay.
I think it is still this year. I think my mind is now going to this thing where I think, well, they're just holding off promotional stuff until they can do it on their own or something, you know. do something really minimal here, because in 2 months is when they'll give us a screen grab from the trailer, and in 3 months will be the trailer itself, and so they probably have a longer plan or something.
Sure.
But yeah, this is very, very minimal. There's the other thing, I don't know, do you know the file name for this? Because sometimes the file name is a hint. Sometimes.
Inspect? How do I look at the file name?
If you just download it, maybe?
Save image as.
Yeah, and it will tell you.
It says 31499 expansion 4.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, there you go. Just expansion 4. So we don't know.
Okay.
But there you go. There you go, guys. That's the studio roadmap. Some more clarification on things going on. This actually wasn't there was a lot more like positive stuff in this than I was expecting.
Yeah.
On certain big ticket items, they still wobbled a little bit, I think.
Sure.
But it sounds like I really like this stuff about core system updates and this reward thing. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I think this was a well-written article.
Yeah, so do let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting for an hour and a half about this, Boots. It's been lots of fun. And yeah, keep an eye out, guys. I'm still in the process. If you've watched my channel closely, you'll have seen there's been a couple of like test streams and then they failed for one reason or another. I'm still in the process of getting the engineers out, upgrading the internet. Just fingers crossed for a minute. And yeah, we'll see what we can do. And you'll see Boots as well very soon, because we'll do a balance with Boots thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Should be cool. Thanks very much for coming on, man. Thanks for watching, everybody, and giving us your time. And we will see you on the next one very soon. Take care now.
Bye.